Welcome to Focus on Family. Do you hear strange sounds in the middle of the night? Have you felt like someone was watching you, but no one was there? Then you want to stick around. We have a special guest who is going to tell us how to spot and get rid of unwanted spirits. Please welcome your host, Kathy McCarthy, and her guest, Mr. Angelus Perez.
Thank you, Rocky, for that wonderful introduction, and welcome, Angelus, to our show.
Thank you for having me again.
So, how to get rid of ghosts? That's very interesting. So we had talked about on a previous show that ghosts do exist, and they can be bothersome.
It's like extended families.
And you are going to give us some information on how to get rid of a spirit. But why don't you tell me first how they could come about? Is there provocation, or what would get them? Are they there before we're there, or do they come after? How does that work?
They can be created by so many means. If it's a topa, then it can be created whenever you're there by somebody else, live. If it's a memory which has been mistaken for spirits and ghosts, it's basically a natural phenomena that science has not really been able to categorize properly.
Now you said a memory?
A memory. It's like a crystal in your computer or your TV. Every electronics has crystals. Well, crystals, memory storage devices. They take in information, let out information with the right stimulus or electrical impulse or whatever put into it. Well, the house is the same thing. If somebody, say, passes away or there's violence, or it's not necessarily a ghost that's there, it's the emotional impression of us, because we are always radiating different types of radiation. Some are thermal, some are ultraviolet, infrared, but there are all other types of energies that we're constantly throwing out to the universe. We're a big energy generator. And under really strong, intense emotional outbursts or drama, some of this energy patterns get stuck in the very walls, the very floors, the very fabric of the building it's in. Case in point, if you go to some jails that have been abandoned, ready to tear down, they may or may not have spirits in it, but you always feel them on a negative level, especially the very sensitive people or the people who are naturally gifted at picking up these subtle energies. So that's another form. And then there's the spirits, and yes, they can be somebody that was attracted to the place. Most of the times they come to the place because it is what is familiar to them in life.
So does it have to be, say, in a place that's an older place, or what if it's a new dwelling?
It can be, it depends. If if the house was built 2 years ago and a year before you moved in, somebody was murdered in it, God forbid, but that can create the possibility, the potential for the spirit to be coming back to the house or staying there. Other cases, it's an old house, many generations of people coming and going, and some people got attached to the house, and it's not necessarily drama or some fatality or something negative. It might be just that they're attached to their house and they don't want to move on.
So would that be the only reason why they'd be at the house?
No, they may be afraid of moving on because they think they're going to find somebody on the other side that already passed away before them, and they don't want to meet them. Others just want to be here because they're having more fun for some reason.
So do they have a choice?
Yes, absolutely, always.
So when people move on, when they die, they have a choice
to go where they're going or not. Yes, it's always a choice. It's never something that's against you, something that you're not willing to do. It's not against one's will. Well, what's the purpose of a will if you can't use it? So yes.
So what's the difference between a haunting and a presence?
A presence, again, that's going back to what I was saying. It could be a memory. It could be something created by a living person, or it could be something that's made artificially through electronics, devices, radio waves, microwaves. It could be something that's natural to the surrounding geology, the ground. It could be an underground river, aquifer, lake, a stream, and there might be a lot of quartz crystals, all the types, mediums of minerals that generate these fields that you would feel, but it's not a ghost. I mean, I've been in places like that where people thought it was a ghost, and again, it's a mother and a daughter, cousins of my wife. They said they saw something on top of the staircase, an apparition or something. She would feel it, something near downstairs in the garage and somewhere around the laundry room. And before she told me all this, I asked her not to. I would go in there, and I just used a simple device I made in the 80s, a dividing rod, known also as a dowsing rod.
And that would be these
Oh, that'd be
here?
this, yeah,
Okay.
these exactly. And I use that because it's basically, I've learned a long time ago, there's nothing magic to them. Those people who know nothing about how they work would debunk them and say,
So
this
how-
is mysticism.
how
It
does
works
it
on a
work?
form of kinesiology. And
Okay.
kinesiology has been used back since the 60s by doctors and therapists to measure the healing rate of a patient. This is an extension of that. Somehow, we know this through quantum mechanics. We can't explain it yet, but we understand it exists. It's a scientific physical phenomena that our bodies are conscious of things that we are not conscious of. You know, it's like involuntary muscles opposed to voluntary muscles. Well, I may not want my heartbeat to beat. I may want it to stop, but it's not going to stop. It's involuntary. It'll do what it wants to do on its own. But they've already learned that the body seems to know something's going to happen before it happens, or knows about information that's beyond the consciousness of the individual. So these are used as extensions to what we are, like antennas. And you can feel the subtle changes that the doctors would feel when they do kinesiology on you. And if you practice enough with them, after a while you can actually do it with your hands and don't need them. These are just to help you focus and
Well,
feel
they're
the
moving
energy.
around, so how does this work?
Well, it's basically, if I ask, the normal technique would be, if you don't mind, I'm sorry, you know, you stay in one area and you hold them straight out, and you know, this is simplifying it, 101. Okay, I want to now know what direction I have to go. You know, so I would turn around in a circle, 380 degrees. As I'm turning, you know, I already know that when it goes like this, or it opens up like this, that's the direction. So now I stop. And I ask that question one more time. Is this the direction that I'm supposed to go? And I can be holding them out, and they'll close again or open up. And I'm not consciously doing that. I don't understand how that would be the direction, but that's what it's telling me. So then I'll relax, focus a different question. Say, okay, how many feet must I walk before I hit the location? So, you know, I'll walk one.
Now, location of where
Whatever
a
I'm looking for.
presence might be. Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
anything.
I will say that. You know, I'm looking for the energy source, the vertice, the cold spot, whatever. Where is the energy spot? And I'll walk and walk, and then I'll turn like this, and then, you know, I'll repeat it 2 or 3 times to make sure I got it, and I'll always go like this or always go out like that.
Now,
That's
when
a
it
yes
goes
or no.
out, that means you walk that way?
No, it's basically the energies are in flux. So it's like a magnet. Think of it, positive, negative. Somehow these repel with one way of energy flow and go in with another one. I do not understand that yet. So it doesn't. All I know is if it's there, you're going to get a response one way or the other. It's going to be very obvious.
Okay.
And then I'll say, okay, this is it. And I'll put, you know, mark on the floor or something, and I'll start to follow and trace the pattern. This is a methodology that you do. It's repetitive, but after an hour or so, I have a grid. I have an idea, not only where the spots are, but where they're connected to other spots in the house or in the dwelling. And then, of course, it would be right where the child would have the apparition or see the apparition at night. It's right in front of the laundry room where she says she would feel it at night. And she says she doesn't feel it. Sometimes she feels it in the car, and sometimes she doesn't. But it's nothing related to the car. But I noticed that in the garage, right in the middle, there's another spot. So as she drives the car in, she would feel this, like a presence there. And then when she drives away, it's gone. She doesn't associate that the spot is in the garage and she's just driving out of the spot. Like, you know, we talked earlier about an area in Sedona that I walked in and I could feel something and I walk out. So there's something there. After a while, I started to use other devices like gauze and natural EM detector, which these are popular. You can buy them. They're called tri-field natural EM meters. You can buy them anywhere online. Another gauze meter I use are very sensitive. This has a visual light that turns on, lets me see it.
Now, what would this do? How would I use
Well,
this? These are to
pick up electromagnetic
see if they're
radiation.
ghosts. Okay.
Well, see, not ghosts per se, but ghosts, these devices don't pick up ghosts. What they pick up is their influence. It's like if I was next to a radio tower or a cellular tower, and these will ring. They're not picking up the physical tower. They're picking up the influence, the radiation that the towers are sending out.
Like an energy?
Yeah, an energy field. It's not the spot, not them themselves. These are more accurate. These, believe it or not, are more simple and don't use any electricity or technology. Really put you right there at the spot. If I was to use them for saying, and not only used for ghost hunting, they were used originally to find water in the olden days, centuries past. Nowadays, people in the military, believe it or not, in the Marine, they're trained to use them for finding mines. They won't admit that, but they do. Every oil company in the world has on the payroll, unofficially, a dowser, find oil. I found back in Arizona with these a few meteorites that I was able to make some money off. And well, I said, well, I could find meteorites, with these things. I wonder if I could find ghosts with these things, which I didn't make them for ghost hunting primarily. And I used this and something like this to find the meteors, because as I got close to it, I was in maybe a few feet of it. I would use something like this, or these devices, or a metal detector to pick up the exact spot. So I use, like a doctor, use different tools. You don't use just one tool, and then you home in on the pattern. There's always a pattern when it comes to these things. Always.
So if we've determined that, we may have presence, a ghost in the house, and do we contact somebody to say, okay, how do we get rid of it? Or can we do this at home? What
save your money, empower yourself.
Okay.
You can spend it if you like.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, power, that's right. And what you would do, it's kind of funny. There's several ways of doing this. You first try to talk to it. It's like a person. Think of it as a person, has feelings. Hey, listen, I'm in this house too. For better or worse, I got to stay here. Can you just be a little peaceful? And you can stay if you like, because they don't take up much space, or and they don't eat much.
Do they clean the house?
Unfortunately, they don't. But then again, they don't dirty it either. So you can stay, but just please stop scaring us. And we'll live in peace. Until we go our separate ways. Many times it's all it takes, and it stops. Other times they don't want to pay attention. They don't want to listen.
What's their purpose? Just to kind of
purpose
hang
can be,
out, or?
They want to be there because it's something they remember when they were alive. They want to be there because they got attention now that they didn't get when they were alive. They're afraid.
Is it wise to help them to move on?
No, not necessarily, because the truth of the matter is they're there by will. They're there by their purpose. They want to be there now. If they wish to move on, they'll find a way to communicate it to you. I mean, usually if I go in, I don't go in with the one tool I don't have on the table here is I'll go in with somebody, a friend of mine, who is psychically endowed, or has a psychic twinkle, so to speak, and he or she can feel these presence, even communicate with them. And if they want to move on, we can kind of help them, assist them to move on by showing them and talking to them to focus on the door, the light, whatever, But the sensitive person is more instrumental in that. If they don't want to leave and they just want to stay there and they'll be quiet, really, it's not a big thing then.
So for people, everyday people like myself, if someone thinks that they might have some kind of presence in the house or spirit in the house, so the first thing you would suggest is talking to it.
Well, if it's bothering you, yes. If it's not, think of it as don't worry about it. If you pay it no mind, it will not do anything.
It's not going to bother you.
Because they're in their own, how do I put it, realm. Almost their own loop in their mind, and they're seeing the world differently in time. They're out of time, so they don't see and experience progression of time as we do.
Same thing that we do.
Yes, and so they may just come and go. You may experience something every now and then, but it's, once you get used to it, think of this as there are more so-called haunted houses than you can imagine. Why most of them are not noticed is it's just like leaves, the wind. Don't worry about it. It's
kind
natural.
of coexist.
You can coexist until the time comes when they decide to leave on their own.
Okay.
The only time a ghost hunter, ghost buster is called in, and that's the distinction. ghost hunter comes in to validate something is there. A parapsychologist or investigator is collecting scientific information, and a ghost buster is the one that comes in to get rid of them, get them to move on.
So what else can we do to kind of,
well,
if we
if
decide
you get,
we don't want them in the house?
if you're having a negative experience with some of them, you could try creating the opposite effect in the room. And there are natural minerals out there that can actually take away the negativity in a room, be it artificial or be it by a spirit. Burning incense type of frankincense myrrh, for example, which I have in this. This type of resin, which you can go to any place.
What is this? This is
frankincense and myrrh.
frankincense. And how would you burn that?
You put it on a piece of charcoal. They have special charcoals you can put it on, or you can put it on something that, on a Bunsen burner in a cup that, as long as it's properly maintained, so it doesn't.
And you could buy that at any.
You can buy that usually. You Google it.
Now, what about sage?
Sage is another one, but sage, you would use that for what they would call smudging. And you do that first to clear out the energy, but it's kind of a void energy. It's not positive or negative, it's kind of a neutral. Then you will burn these to put in a more positive energy, which will repel whatever is that's negative.
So we don't really need the sage, we could just go with
I would recommend, in a proper way, take sage, go around, start from the basement up all the way to the attic, but you open up all the cabinets, closets, and you close the windows and doors, and you go through every room, and you just make sure the smoke hits every corner. And then after, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, open the windows and doors, because the stuff stinks. It smells almost like weed, and if you're used to weed, never mind. But then you close, once it's aired out, you close it again, and you can do the same thing, but you burnt the frankincense myrrh or any type of positive incense, and a lot of certain stores or outlets that sell it can tell you what's positive besides those two. But those are biblical. Those have been used since.
Now, what about an essential oil spray or something like that?
They can also be used. Tinctures, certain tinctures can be used, but when you burn this gets on every nook and cranny. It gets everywhere. So and then you do the same thing. You burn it up, and you open the windows, clear it out, and then it depends. I usually ask the person or the people, the family, what is your religion? And if, it could be Muslim, it could be Sikhs, it could be Taoism, Christianity, whatever, then you would do a little prayer in that religion as you're doing the smudging, or you're doing the self-fumigation, which is called putting positive smoke into the environment. If there was something negative there, can't stand it. It's like laws of physics. Higher energy can never be in the same place with low energy. You can't have high pressure and low pressure in the same spot. You can't. One is going to dissipate the other.
Now, what about some kind of religious relics? Is that helpful?
Not unless the person the spirit is religious. So if the person is, say, Buddhist, and you bring in a cross, they don't care. And if you bring in even a Buddhist artifact, they still may not care, because they're not evil. They're not affected by it. They're just like you. If I put a crucifix to you, would that affect you? No, because you're a person. It's just an item. It's an artifact, pretty or ugly depending on your point of view. Same for them. Religious artifact, or when you want to use spiritual provocation, in other words, that's only affects the inhuman, the demonic. They're the ones who react to that.
So just a ghost in the house.
Then you can also sea salt, and you want to get organic sea salt. The man-made processed sea salt is really
doesn't do much. So organic sea salt.
Yeah, and
this will help get rid of them.
Well, you sprinkle it in the corners of the rooms that you want. If it's coming into the room and bothering you at night, you can put it, on the front of the door. It doesn't have to be enough where you can see it and it's going to cause a mess. Just a little bit. It has an interesting property of taking, like the stuff that you see in packages to take out moistures, that dehumidifying chemical. Well, it's kind of the same way, but it works with negative energy in the air. It's like after electrical storm, the air smells really crisp and nice because there's negative ions in the air. When the positive ions build up to a point when the nature comes in and balances it out by having an electrical storm, which then puts a lot of negative ions there. Negative ions is not negative. It's actually good for us and helps promote healthy living. Well, same thing. Somehow salt naturally just kind of pulls or repels. I'm not sure.
So this will help for them to go away?
Keep them at bay, yes.
Or keep them at
More often than not. Of course, you can also, like I said, talk to them. And if that doesn't work, whatever your religion is, say it's a Christian religion, I would say tell them, well, in the name of Christ, or in the name of God, or the name of the Holy One, in the name of light.
Is that where the holy water comes in?
Yeah, that's where, sometimes comes in. Well, this is coming in when they're a little bit nastier than just the average ghost.
Okay.
But yes, I would say this is last. I would only recommend the holy stuff, holy relics, holy water, all that, only when it's something of a negative nature and you want to keep it at bay.
Okay.
Because the truth of the matter is, if it's there, you don't want to give it recognition. If it's making itself an annoyance, you want to communicate with it. If it doesn't work, you want to tell it to leave you alone in the name of so-and-so. Usually, like I said, the first stuff usually does it. And if it doesn't, then you tell it to leave in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, whatever. Whatever is strong in your faith usually will send it away.
Okay. Now, what about some of these other devices that you have here?
They're just...
I see you have a camera.
Yes.
And what is this device?
That's a recording device. Basically, this is like a miniature kit for ghost hunter or an investigator to use. They need to be educated on a lot of things because, like I said earlier, not all ghosts are ghosts. Some of them are man-made or memories left in the environment or created by the environment. So you want to, like ball lightnings, they're naturally forming things of nature that people don't know much about. But you need to, what I say is there's lots of books out there. I'm not going to pick up this book because I'm not trying to sell it or anything, but there are books out there about electromagnetic radiation and their effects on human beings. You need to really study a little bit about that because a lot of these devices actually pick up that type of radiation, and that's not ghost related. These devices, this one's a electro sensor. Basically, it's a real simple device. I use it to detect microradiation like microwave ovens, cellular phones, stuff like that. Really great. Your toaster oven, your blender produces radiation whenever it's on. This will pick it up and tell you, well, it's malfunctioning because it's letting out too much radiation or it's working within parameters.
Okay.
Other devices, this one has an audio and a light that turns on, has a sensor that you can kind of go walking around and get it more accurate. Again, this is another one. When you go ghost busting, you want to have multiple of devices for one reason. Some are more sensitive than others. Some work on lower frequencies, some work on higher frequencies, and no one device does it all. You want to take notes, personal notes. Now, this is one of my older units. Your smartphone can do the same. Mm-hmm. You want to have a separate camera and a camcorder, plenty of batteries. Again, remember, if you get into these spots, the energies are in flux and they're sucking energy of the local environment. I've gone in there and had brand new batteries in all my devices and then had to replace them the minute, 2-3 minutes after I walked into the spot.
They were drained?
They were drained,
wow.
Yes. A sensitive person will pick that up immediately while your devices will start to drain really quick. So you want to have extra batteries, different devices for different radiations, 2 types of recording devices, camera and a video recorder. A laptop computer comes in really handy, the right software to keep all this information in a database and have everything.
Now, what kind of information are you recording?
Well, you want to, if you're a techie kind of person, or if you go with a group of people, one person, you want to have as a tech, someone that just deals with electronics and nothing else, so you can concentrate on your own gifts, your own abilities and skills. This person would then make sure to document everything electronically, wirelessly, connect the laptops even to some of the infrared, which I don't have right here, but infrared devices. You can have LED devices, cameras, night vision, and these things can be wirelessly connected to real-time to your computer, and he could be taking in all this information while you're walking and doing your things in the house.
Now, would this help the person in their own home to,
Yes, any one of these devices would. I've gone into houses where they thought they were haunted because they would have nightmares and all this, but studies in Ohio and other universities across the country is using electrostimulus to the head, the brain with magnetic fields and electrodes would induce an illusionary effect. It could be a negative or positive depending on what part of the brain they stimulate. So if there's something, I've been in houses where person, I go to their room, they say, this is where I have the nightmares, I feel like I'm being attacked in the middle of the night. And I would pick up right where the person's head is, a strong indication on my devices, strong enough to tell me that this is too high to be natural, or better yet, your person should not be sleeping there because it's affecting the person's physical brain. And I told him, move his bed 2 feet over and you should stop, which you did.
And what was the reason for that?
Electrical cell tower, just like down the
Wow,
road.
so something
Beam.
like that could really cause some kind of mental
Yes.
issues with someone.
In fact, a lot of ghost stories and ghost apparitions and specters and things I've dealt with happen to be natural things out in the environment that people just didn't associate. So it's easy to go be a little superstitious and closed-minded and say, oh, it's got to be this because.
Right.
I have to go in, kind of semi-skeptic and logical and say, what if it is something natural first?
Now, is there a device that could counteract the electromagnetic fields?
Yes, there are actual, a Faraday cage is one device. There are devices, if you know something or know somebody knows about electronics, can kind of teach you and educate you on building these, think of it as like shields. People build them to protect the electronics in case of an EM burst or electromagnetic pulse. It'll protect you from signals like this. But the truth of the matter is, you don't need to build a shield of any kind. All you have to do is use one of these or any devices, find out where there is specific radiation strongest in your house, and if you can pinpoint it, like I said, if your toaster is actually, or your microwave is leaking and you don't know that, one of these devices will tell you that. Get a new microwave. Takes care of that.
Perfect. All right. This is a lot of great information. Thank you so much, Angelus, for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Thank you for having me.
And so it's a little easier than I thought to get rid of
Yes, it is.
fairly simple ghosts.
Talk
so
to
I
them like
appreciate-
human beings first. And then
That's great information. Thank you so much. And
you're
book
welcome
them out.
so much. Thank you for watching Focus on Family. And a special thanks to our guest, Mr. Angelus Perez. I hope you learned as much as I did tonight about how to get rid of ghosts in your house. Until next time, happy haunting.